I have a few words to say before we call the meeting to order. Many of you are not familiar with what the zoning board is and how it works. And it's just a brief explanation of how we've arrived at our decisions. We on the board are members of the community and your neighbors. We are not paid. We have no political affiliation. We've been appointed by the town council. We are separate from the town planning board, but we do take their recommendations into consideration. We don't have to agree with them, but we consider them. The board does not make the town laws. They are applied by, or supplied by the state and town laws. We all have rights to what we do with our property. At times, many of us need a variance or a special use to help us in making modifications to our property, and you come before the zoning board for help. The zoning board is here for the interpretation of the laws that are set up by the town and the state and how they affect you. For every action, there is a reaction. And we just want to make sure that the reaction does not offset the action of what's been asked for in a variance or a special use. We're here to make sure that anyone's plans who comes before us does not affect your neighbor and his rights. We don't care if you talk to your neighbor or not. That's not an issue here. But he has his rights, and you have yours. And both are governed by the zone your land is located in, specifically acreage, adjacent, frontage, and whatever. Zoning board is here to help clarify and pass opinion on the effect the changes made will affect you, and most importantly, affect the well-being and continuing character of the town of Foster. Please note, we're here to appraise the application of the laws of the town of Foster. I do not sit here as a judge, but as a member of the board. I'm here to help things run smoothly, I hope. The order of testimony will be: the applicant will state his application and may call expert witnesses to give opinion. We will judge the relevance of the application and balance it with common sense and, if possible, our own personal knowledge. Next will be counsel representing abutters in favor, then counsel abutters opposed, then the general public. Time will be given to everyone who wishes to speak, but it must be relevant to the issues at hand, and if you stray, I will stop you. You will come forth, give your name and address, and be sworn in by a clerk of the courts of Rhode Island. Do not take the oath lightly. Every case has a potential to end up in court. On the issue of speaking, we are all here to hear and be heard. So please use the microphone properly so everyone can hear. These are directional microphones. If you'll notice, I'm speaking into it at a bit of a distance. That microphone, you have to hold it very, very close. If you hold it on the side, like you see them do on television, it doesn't work. You've got to speak right into the end. Very important. There's a lot of emotion connected with this meeting, and rightly so. There is money at stake and the quality of lifestyle. Both are very important issues. We on the zoning board are very much aware of these issues and will do our best to give you, the people involved, a fair judgment. Now we'll open the meeting. Call to order, meeting of the zoning board of review, Wednesday, February 14th at 7:10. Roll call, please.
Tom DeRamo.
Yeah.
John Esposito.
Present.
Paula Macho.
Here.
Brian Capola.
Yeah.
David Lindsay.
May I mention that we have an alternate sitting in. Brian Capola will be sitting in as an alternate, but now he will be part of the board, and we have 5 members. Staff present, town planner, town solicitor, and our recording clerk. First up is the approval of minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting, which was January 10th.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the minutes as written.
Do we second? All in favor? Have we read the minutes? Everyone knows what they're approving? Okay, good. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Passed. The minutes are accepted. Correspondence. Yeah. All right, we have a couple of letters that will be read. One of them is from Foster Public School District. And did you get to read it?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Now be it resolved that the Foster School Committee opposes the application as presented of St. LLC for special use permit to establish a gravel bank excavation operation at 9 Mount Hygeia Road, Assessors Plat 14, Lot 83, in Foster, until such time that the applicant has a plan to test, monitor, evaluate, enforce, and repair any potential adverse effects to the Payne School, its employees, and its students. Approved as to substance by the Foster School Committee at a public meeting held on April 6, 2017.
This is the same one?
Yeah. Not for me. So should we enter this into?
Yeah, that'll be entered as an exhibit. There is another letter. I don't have a copy of it, but a copy is available at Town Hall. It was entered into record, and it came from the Providence Water Supply Board, and they disapproved of the application and granting of it because of the effect it would have on the Morton watershed. That is a letter on record and entered as an exhibit. I say if you need a copy of it, it is available. We have final approval of the decision that we made on the last meeting. Owner and applicant, Robert C. Schultz of 8 South Killingly Road, Foster, requests a special use permit from the Foster zoning ordinance for property located at number 3A South Killingly Road, Foster. Special use permit is needed under Article 4, Zone Regulations, Section 2, Accessory Uses, multi-family structure to convert an existing single-family residence into 2-family residence in an AR district. We'll entertain a motion to accept that. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Motion is accepted. That is the final approval of the decision. We have a request for a continuation to hold a public hearing for property located at 0 Danielson Pike. The owners and applicants, Michael S. and Judy Balucci, request a special use permit from the Forster zoning ordinance. Special use permit is needed. And they're asking for a continuance on that. Motion?
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Carino,
Second?
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So passed. Next, we have owner and applicant, Saint 23 LLC, for property located at number 9 Mount Igea Road, Plat 14. Special use permit sought from the Town of Forster zoning ordinance for Section 11, industrial use, subsection 23, gravel banks. The permit is needed to commence a temporary gravel bank excavation operation, limited to approvals by RIDEM, including insignificant alteration to freshwater wetlands. Industrial stormwater permit, stormwater discharge for construction, activity permit based on a stormwater management report, operation and maintenance plan, soil erosion and sediment control plan, site plans, including construction phase, on-site project operators, excavation and transportation schedules, construction vehicles, staging, refueling, gravel storage, all roads, soil erosion control measures, best management practices, perimeter forest buffer, final grading, stabilizing, seeding, and loaming, submitted with a dust control plan, noise evaluation, and traffic impact study, and participating post-extraction farming activity. Have the abutters been notified of this application? Do we have receipts? All right. I have a question on the application, on the wording. I have a copy here. And I'm questioning the use of the term horse farm. It is mentioned on page 2. And I'd like to make it clear, as part of your request, you're asking for permission so that future plans can be made for a horse farm. And you're referring back to its past use up until the land was sold, that it was a horse farm. It was in fact never a horse farm. I have personal knowledge of this, and I can get a sworn affidavit from the tax filer. Yes, excuse me.
The special use permit, although it mentions a horse farm expansion, the special use permit is needed only for the gravel pit, and that is what we'll be hearing tonight.
Okay,
So,
I stand corrected.
I know it says that, but that's not what they're.
It says it, but it doesn't mean it. Okay.
The applicant,
The applicant is present.
Yep.
You will counsel step forward. You have to speak to her.
Why?
He's loud enough without the microphone. We don't want to have that close to the microphone. But notwithstanding that, I would like to.
sorry, we can't hear.
No, please use that. I just wanted you to go before her for the swearing in. You don't have to, you're the counsel, but you would have to be sworn. Please use the podium.
Yes.
Good evening, my name is Brian St. Croix, owner of St. 23 LLC. Also, the person that's developing the farm on that property. The reason we're asking for the special use permit is the removal off of the property and the trucking coming off. All of the other permit requirements through the DEM have been met and have been supplied. All the engineering has been gone over by GZA in Providence, Rhode Island, and also the other engineering, Dupree Engineering. So I'm going off of the last appeal hearing that we had here, and we were all in agreement that the work that I'm doing on the property, I have received all the permits to do work on the property, and the problem that we had was removing it from the property. So tonight I've bought my traffic expert witness, and he's an expert in traffic. They do all the traffic for all of the place. So and he's well qualified. So he's going to be speaking on what impacts, if any, the traffic will have. So that is my understanding of the reason.
We can't hear.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. So the reason for my permit is the removal of the material off of the property. Everything, all the work that's being done on the property is permitted already by the DEM. It took me over 1.5 years.
Please, can you just address your?
Oh, I was just trying to be friendly and answer your question.
Just speak to the board.
Okay, so, and like I'll say it again, the reason for the special use permit is removing the gravel onto basically 94 to Route 6, which are state-marked routes, trucking highways. So that's what we're here.
If I may comment on that, this is not the first time you've been before us.
Right.
On the last meeting of the zoning board, you came before us to answer a violation, and you were cited and fined $100 a day for any days that you did not concur with the violation. You were found guilty on that count, you admitted to it, and that's why you're standing before us today. Previous to that, you were scheduled to come before us, but for whatever reason, there was a last-minute cancellation.
Yeah, they
We don't hold that against you, but I just
No,
wanted to
I
establish
know.
that.
That's why I bought Al Betancourt from the Farming Bureau. He could kind of explain how I got to that decision, and the previous council that I had, they gave me, that advice to do so. But I agree, because
It's a moot point.
I'm
just
here
bringing it up.
to work with the town and try to work everything out so that I can move forward with with what I have going on.
We appreciate that.
That's the goal.
Did you want to clarify the horse farm? I know that the chair brought it up, but the special use permit you're requesting is with respect to gravel pit, correct?
It's a temporary gravel pit.
For the purpose of removing gravel from the material from your property on
Yes. Most of the property, like everything else in Foster, is covered with boulders. And I've moved already, I think, over 10 million pounds of boulders to get them off to one side so that I can reloom what's there and create large hay fields. That's the goal.
If I may, we're all familiar with the boulders of Forster.
Right.
Anyone that has a house in Forster or has had a house built in Forster is very well aware of the boulders.
Yes.
And what we've all done, to the best of my knowledge, is take the large boulders, some of them too big to lift, and roll them over to the edge of the property, creating a berm, barrier, whatever you want to call it. Then they've removed the topsoil, put it aside, done their excavation, then reestablished the topsoil. Why can't you do that?
Because the DEM permit says on it that they want me to remove the boulders from the property. And I had asked them if I can build a border wall around the property, and they said, maybe. They guesstimated that, see, the boulders are on the top, and then they go down 3 to 4 feet.
We're well aware of that.
Okay, so when I'm digging those up, you kind of run out of place. I think they said 2.5 to 3 million tons of boulders are there.
How many acres?
Just about 140.
You haven't even scratched the surface.
No, I haven't.
Trust me.
No.
Every one of us has a pile of boulders.
But it's not the whole property, it's a subsection of that, it's not the whole property, it's 41 acres?
Yes, I mean, it's 46 acres out front.
Okay.
And what we're doing is surface mining. So those boulders that DEM wants me to remove, I can't leave them there because that's what they're requiring me to do.
Well, we're all in violation then, because we all roll boulders. I can show you them on my property, and I did, everyone here. I'm not arguing with you, I'm trying to make a point here.
Right.
Now, you say you can't roll the boulders out of the way, DEM won't let you.
Right, it's not just the boulders. Okay.
So I've been advised by council that we'll let you present the whole application, and then we'll address the individual parts.
If I just may there,
Here's a mic.
you know, and everybody here, my name is Richard Smeloff, and I'm he's Vice President and General Counsel, Quality Control. And I'm late on the scene here, and I'm looking out at everybody, and I'm struck by what good and decent people all of you are. And I just want to say that, you know, knowing Brian as I have for 20 years, sometimes there's misconceptions with people and their motivations, and Brian is a working man. And
Excuse me, I'm going to interrupt you. We're not questioning his
no,
character.
I'm just getting to the boulder issue.
Okay, continue.
So the issue with the boulders, he is more than willing. We've sat down and had many lengthy discussions in terms of making, modifications and adjustments where we can do it that would have less of an impact. So it's not a zero-sum game. It's not an all or nothing situation. Brian's well willing. It's not just about the boulders, but certainly where he can, he's going to make an effort to mitigate that. And that's kind of, that's where the direction we're coming from. And those are welcome questions. And this isn't saying, whether this gets approved today, and this is going to go on for X number of days or years and months and so forth. Modifications can be made. And the spirit of it is he's willing to make modifications, and that's a point well taken. Certainly, there's no big benefit to him to take, hundreds of thousands of pounds of boulders and remove them.
Thank you.
And another thing with the boulders, my idea is when I presented everything to the DEM, I asked them if I could stack them along the border and cover them with dirt. Then I was going to plant pine trees along the border going around. Because nobody makes money on boulders, let me tell you, because you have to get them out of the ground. You have to put them in a pile. I got piles that are bigger than this room. And there's no money in it. It destroys machines. I mean, it costs money to get rid of them. I would rather bury them, but they don't want me to bury them. But what happens when I bury them, when I have, 2.5 million tons, I mean, that's all that fill will come out and the boulders will go in the ground. And the problem that they had is, I mean, you can spread them out, you can compact it, do them in layers, but they're still worried about sinkholes and things going down. So that's when I come up with the idea, I'll stack them along the border, I'll throw some dirt on top of them, and plant trees. And
No, they didn't like that. They wanted a berm is a berm, and a pile of boulders is a pile of boulders.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So Brian, may I kind of like get it straight in my mind, get my head around it? You've come up with the idea. You've come up with the idea to ask for a special use permit to remove some of the material from the property,
Yes.
gain profit from it, use it toward the farm renovation, and keep the ground fairly level. Is that a
Well,
summation pretty much?
yeah, I mean, what it is now is, it's basically shaped like this.
I understand.
And boulders everywhere.
Right, I've
So,
seen it, Bob.
and I'm not raising mountain goats. I wanted to build an ice horse farm, jumping things.
So for
You know what I mean?
the interest of time,
Yep.
you want to take what boulders you need to take out, make them manageable in size, hence the rock crusher.
Right.
Manage it, truck it out, get rid of it, and finish the grade.
Yes.
That's the special use permit in a nutshell?
Well, the special use permit is for the removal of it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Are you planning on grading this entire 125 acres at street level?
No, no, not at all. It has, it's, right. Well, it's gonna be mostly level, but it also has a little pitch to it, you know, and that's just for water drainage. And that's all that's for, so I don't have puddling or anything.
How deep do you plan on going with this excavation?
Well, it's surface mining. We're not going down. We're going in.
So once you get to basically a level piece of land,
Yes.
it's going to stop.
Oh, yeah. It's good.
And he wants to be able to plant the hay, so it has to be at a, you know, at a grade that would, you know, would accommodate that.
And that's all in your report?
Just to accommodate.
Yes.
And approximately how long do you figure its operation will last?
Well, if I can get it going, probably, I would say a year and a half, maybe 2 years. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a negotiation thing here, because I don't want to, in the first application, there was another contract, and there were like 96 trucks, and everybody had it figured down to a science where every 5 minutes a truck's go. It doesn't work that way. You might get 5 or 10 trucks. I might not get any trucks one day. It's not like it's not an assembly line. You know, I run an excavator over there that I purchased to do this. I am gonna have other help from another company, but it's not gonna go gangbusters like the first guy thought it was gonna. They came in, and what they did is they started mixing everything together and making a big mess everywhere. So I got rid of them. I fired them because I didn't want, you know, it looked like a bomb went off. And now they've come in and they've built we've all built the retention ponds there for the, you know, to protect all the dirt, sediment, and the silt that runs down, you know, and all the.
All done with resources that you have on the property. All done with soil and.
Yes, I mean.
That you have on the property. But don't forget, you came before us, and your people told us what the traffic pattern would be.
Yes,
It
sir.
wasn't us that said, well, we think there's going to be 10 trucks an hour. You gave us figures, and you swore to their accuracy. This is what we're planning. That's what we're going by.
Yeah, but, you know what I
Now
mean?
you changed it. Okay.
I'm not totally, I'm trying to change so I can work with the town so it's not such an overbearing cancer in this place. I mean, it has become, it's been called everything and what it's gonna be. You know, I did very well in my life, and I came down and I bought some land, and I wanted to use the assets on the land to build what I want, period. I've said it on record. I'm not looking to create low-income housing, a mosque, I mean, whatever.
Right. So let me ask you this. You presented for us this plan from the Creed Engineering, is that correct? The soil erosion?
Yes, sir.
You plan, this has been approved. I've seen the drawings.
Yes.
You've got retention ponds. Obviously, the Creed Engineering has done a lot of work to come up with a plan for soil retention, runoff control. And that's your plan, that's the plan. So what you're saying is you're going to be, you're willing to be flexible.
Yes.
On the removal, but this still stands as what you submitted originally?
Yes, all those plans, those are the DEM approved
Okay.
permits, so you'll see.
There's a lot here.
I
We
know,
just want to make sure
I know.
we're not changing anything. Being flexible is good.
Right.
But changing things midstream wouldn't be good for me because I'm not that smart.
Well, the permits, I can't change. I would have to go in and reapply, submit a different design, get engineering done again
Yep,
to
understood.
change things. So all that stormwater runoff and everything like that is what that's what they wanted. 'Cause
I don't think we're questioning that at all, sir.
Okay.
I think we've accepted that you've done everything in your planning to satisfy the requirements of DEM. That we can accept. It's the peripheral stuff that you're asking for. You're not looking to move a few cubic yards of soil.
Nope, nope,
This is a major undertaking,
major, yes.
and as such, major undertakings have major
Disputes.
Ramifications. issues.
Yeah, right,
results, if you will.
right,
Some of them negative.
right.
And we're trying to see if we can keep those to negative results. But your plan is still grandiose. And you're talking about, now you made the remark that no one's not gonna make any money on stones. If they crush them, they will.
No, boulders, that's them.
Boulders.
I don't
Okay.
get anything for that.
Look, none of us, it cost me money to arrange my land. I'm on the side of a hill.
I know.
And I had to accept it.
Right,
It cost me money to make a flat enough plateau for me to build a house.
Mhm.
That's an accepted fact of living in Foster.
yes,
And we kind of like it. We don't want to live on the prairie. We want contour to our land. And that's one of the reasons we're here. And what you're trying to do is modify that. Maybe you got the wrong piece of land. I mean, I don't know. Do you need flat land in order to make a hayfield?
it's not flat. It has a
You
gradient.
can't build on a hill? You
Yeah.
can't mow hay on a hill?
No, he indicated that it's not gonna be at grade level.
It's been graded, graded. Yes.
The amount of overburden is, I mean, it requires me, that's why we're going with the surface mining, lowering the pitch so the water isn't going a zillion miles an hour down the hill. And I was told by the engineers and the DEM that we're actually slowing the water down.
What I'd just like to add to that is exactly what you were saying, is that it costs him more money to make it flat. So he's not looking to necessarily make it flat. He's looking to get the material out and then be able to plant on it. So it will have a grade to it. It can only cost him more money.
I think what would be helpful is if you guys put on your entire presentation, show the plans, show the grade, have your engineer describe the stuff so the board can get a better feel. Then they can continue to ask questions. 'Cause
Well, tonight
We're
we're
shooting
here
back
for
and
the.
forth. What we'd like to hear is your presentation at this point.
Yeah, well, I just to indicate, tonight, the issue, I think was really sorry, I'm sorry, everybody. The issue tonight, I believe, and as you had indicated earlier, we were going to narrow the focus to the removal part of it. So we're not gonna be, we couldn't really, I mean, Brian can speak to those details, but the presentation is really gonna be a traffic issue. But if you want, if there's any questions, I mean, Brian is easily able to sort of step back and say, okay, we're going to begin here, and this is where we're going with it. And then I believe the issue on the table tonight is the traffic that people have a concern over, and that's, I guess, why we're here.
But if I might, sir, the fact of the matter is, the scope and level of the demolition or construction is what is determining the need for a gravel special use permit.
Exactly.
So if we can't get
We will.
if we can't come to an agreement on why we have to do such a grand scale removal, there's no need.
He can answer all those questions.
Exactly, that's
He-
what,
he
that's what we
can,
want
he
to
will.
do. We want to
And we'll stay
get, we want to
until
see the
midnight.
present, no, well, we don't want to do that, but we want to see the presentation.
Okay.
Because we know you've done the work.
Right,
Obviously, the plans are here.
right,
I know there's retention ponds, I know that horses need to be safe, it doesn't have to be level, but it can't be rocky and dangerous.
right.
So I understand the whole need, I've read the report, let's do the presentation and see if we can get to the real meat of what.
Do you
Well,
want to start with the traffic, or do you want to step back?
Let's ask Mr. Chairman.
How would you like to do it? Do you want to start with the traffic portion, you're an expert, and then back into the presentation on the grading and so forth?
Whatever your presentation is set up,
I was under
you got the
the,
time.
I was just under the impression, yeah, all right, we'll do it that way.
Okay. Give us
Why don't you
the
explain?
big picture and.
Go ahead.
All right, well,
You know,
explain. Yeah.
and Brian, just, keep it simple.
So, relax. It's
Yeah.
fine.
All right, so, as I said, I own a heating and air conditioning company. I kind of got sick of it. And then I got diagnosed with peripheral artery disease in my legs. So, what that means is I can't physically do the job that I used to. So, I said, well, I gotta find something to do. So I sold my company, and I was gonna move down here. And we found this at a very good deal, and I purchased it, because if I was to purchase this in Connecticut somewhere, I mean, it would have been a fortune. And I went to the town, and I checked the allowed uses in an AR zone for what we are doing. And on the list was a gravel pit. whether it be temporary or you know, forever gravel pit. I'm asking for a temporary one. It said nothing about size, nothing about volume, and I have, you know, 130 and 40 acres over there covered with boulders. So the idea being, okay, how can we do this? You know, how financially is this gonna work? So purchase the place, we go in and we start working, the trees go, you know, and everything starts to get stumped, and then we get into the boulder issue. So we start building the boulders. The boulders have to be moved, no matter what, to create that farm, those hay fields. And the reason that the hay fields are so large is because I want to leave myself open with different options. You know what I mean? I don't know exactly the other stuff that I'm gonna plant there.
Can I interrupt you, please? Because you made the mention, boulders are in question, and you said yourself, just now we heard you, boulders have to be moved.
Yes.
We did not say anything about removing. We're addressing removing the boulders,
Well,
not removing them off property. That's where the problem comes in. And if you went to town hall and they said to you, oh yeah, you can come in and build a gravel bank, well, there again, you were ill-informed, because you cannot put in a gravel bank unless you have a special use permit. And that's why you're before us. Now, a gravel bank is one thing. You go in, you grab a little gravel, process it, take it out, okay? 5 acres, 6 months, a year later, take another little piece, take it out, process it. You're talking industry here. This is one fell swoop. You want to change the whole profile of that land, as Mr. DeRamo said. How deep are you going to go? You don't know.
no, we're not going deep. There's a misconception. The hill, there's a 34-foot cut in a hill. So
The
it takes,
topography map, excuse me, the topography map says you average 540 feet in height. And the top of that hill is 570. According to your topography map,
right,
that's a 30-foot hill.
yeah.
30 foot's not very high until you start opening it up. Now you take 30 feet and you multiply it times an acre or half an acre. You got some serious stuff to move around.
Well, that's why I went to the DEM and, you know,
It's not a
submitted.
DEM issue, as your counsel said.
Okay.
We're just talking about what's going to be removed and what impact the removal, will it satisfy you, and what it will do to your abutters. That's what we're here for. Again, we suggest, council suggested, that we go to your total plan so we don't keep snipping back and forth on this, and we can address it on a whole.
Well,
And just so you know, when Mr. St. Croix said he went to the county, looked at the book doesn't give any kind of idea of how big something is.
Absolutely not.
It does
You're right.
not. So
You're right.
that's what he's saying, and that's true. It does not give
It's
you
true.
that.
It's true, because every case, but it does say in there, and I can quote you because I've got it highlighted, that you do need a special use for quarrying. I can quote it if you give me a half an hour to find it in all this. But it does say that you do need a special, which we're willing to grant in some cases. We want to
Well,
see
the
if
the reality of it is,
I'm sorry?
the reality of it is, and you're exactly right. You're 100% right, and there's no way to change it. It's going to require a significant amount of traffic, and there's no way around that. That is the fact, and that's what the traffic expert will testify to. But the material itself isn't dangerous, the noise level isn't dangerous, and ultimately, this isn't something that's permanent. And it's not something that's permanent, okay? What I'm saying is, there's no question, we're not gonna sit here and deny that, you know, moving 50 to 100 trucks a day, you know, that this is something we can hide behind. No, so that it is what it is, and you're gonna grant it or you're not. But what Brian's plan is to, he's not planning on leaving this in a bad state or impacting neighbors. But there's no way anybody's going to sugarcoat any of this. But the traffic expert can talk about the noise level, he can talk about the vehicles, and talk about how many vehicles are already on that state highway. In addition to that, he's committed to doing something productive in the long run. Whether you approve it or not, he'll end up doing something productive with it. And the way he looks at it is having horses there. He's got a 20,000 square foot building for the horses, and his daughters ride horses in the land. You're not going to do much with that land besides grow hay or some other crop. So he's not here with a bad intent, and so I think that, you know, where you're coming from is 100% right, and it's just a matter of getting the facts.
I don't want to be 100% right. I want to come to a conclusion that satisfies him and takes care of our abutters and takes care of.
And we would like nothing more than that, and he wants to be flexible. They're all good and decent people, and he's a good and decent man. I think that this will be a way that we can, you know, this is the American dream, right, isn't it? To have a business and to be able to.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
You get
Have a
bigger.
good presentation.
Okay.
Right.
So-
Do you have an actual presentation of, we know now that you're here for a special use permit for gravel removal, we get that. You've done a lot of work. You want to put it together in a small package and walk us through what is going to happen so we can get an idea of what's going to happen?
Okay.
Cap it off with
What
the
you're asking
traffic
for?
expert.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, so the first thing that we had to build was the retention ponds. They're very large, and they're made to hold millions of gallons of water. This is what I have to do. This is what I consider a presentation, because I'm explaining.
You're right, Brian. Go ahead, sorry.
So-
Corrected.
Go ahead.
All right, so the ponds are built. Now that keeps the wetlands protected, along with all the silt fence they make you put on the outside, all of that stuff. That is made to protect all of the wetlands. And then, okay, after the ponds were built, now we're going in to each section. So we're gonna do a section, and then I pull all of the loam off, all the rocks out of the way, then I screen it, and I put a lot of the loam back down. Some of it is so thick and just so muddy that, you know, I mix in the gravel with it, I mix it all together, and then we put it back down. So, I mean, the goal for me is to get, when you drive in the property, and you're on the right side of the driveway, is to get these fields done, so that, you know, you can get planting going, because it's gonna take a
So
couple
you're going to
years.
work it in segments,
Yeah, there's-
parcels?
Yeah.
Have an idea of what the plan is and how much acreage at a time?
It's
Do
generally.
you have a plan?
Yes, yes. It's pretty much on the package that I gave you.
Yeah.
So the plan is we're gonna create a staging area for the material to sit on, okay? And that also works as a sound buffer. I had to put all of the dirt lined up on the right side of the driveway. All the work that's being done is on the opposite side of that pile. So it's kind of like if I go outside and yell and slam the door, you know what I mean? The sound gets blocked. It gets blocked a lot.
This berm that you built, just to clarify, is along the Route 6, Route 94 side?
Yes.
Is it
That's
gonna
not-
move,
That's not a big issue there.
is it gonna move with the segments? Are you gonna create buffers as you're moving and staging different work areas?
Yeah. It's a
How many
lot.
stages do you think there's gonna be, Brian?
There's probably gonna be, like with each section, it's like a 4-part plan. Pull the rocks, pull the stumps, get the loom, screen the loom, put it back. And I'm having them grade everything down so that it's not like this. Because where it is now, I mean, you plant stuff, yeah, but it's gonna race down the hill. It's
So
all
you're
gonna
gonna
wash
work
away.
certain parcels of land at that time, you're gonna create buffers, water retention ponds will be in place.
Yes.
When that starts. Okay.
Right, and the retention ponds have been built.
Are you willing to, so it looks like your plan is in at least 4 phases. Are you willing to agree to a special condition that for each phase, you will create a buffer around that particular portion that you're excavating?
Yeah, that happens anyways.
With all those rocks.
Well, when we're cleaning, yes. So as we do the section on the right side of the driveway, say that would be done in two segments. We do one, then we do the other one. The only thing that's gonna change anything is if there's something like, you know, a huge piece of ledge or something. We're just gonna go around it.
It's there.
It's not.
Well, we're just
Oh,
asking you to
there is.
summarize. Yeah, we're asking you to summarize.
Okay.
We don't know what we don't know yet.
Okay, so,
Didn't Donald Rumsfeld say that? We have the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns?
Something like that. I have a
He
question.
grew up in Florida.
yep.
You stockpiled your loan?
Yeah, a lot of it, not everything yet.
Did you move loan off-site?
Yes,
Okay, it's been established that you have.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, I said that at the last
You
meeting.
don't think you're gonna need to put it back?
Well, the thing is the loom is about this deep. It's mud. It's absolute
It
mud.
dries out, it's great for hay.
Well, there's no incentive for him to remove it at will. It costs him more money to bring it back, he has to.
Yeah, I
Well, that's a great point, because really, it doesn't matter to us, I don't think, if he has to pay money to bring it back, he has to do that. And
Correct.
to be able to come to a conclusion that he's coming to, which is planting, he's gonna need the right
Exactly
soil.
Well, I actually,
Whether or not you made a mistake, it doesn't really matter for the permit.
I'm just curious on that point.
oh, I'm not getting rid of everything, no way.
Okay.
Okay.
Continue.
Okay, so we're at the farthest right of the property at that point, and that would be considered it. Phase 1 was the ponds, phase 2 is now we're gonna start surface mining, they call it. We're just grading it down, and we're just pushing everything out. And if it's sold as clay fill, gravel, loam, dirt, whatever it is, it's gotta go, because the amount that sits on the land after we're done doing all this, it's gonna be astronomical. So it has to go in order to create that. I mean, I wouldn't even have thought of entertaining this, you know what I mean, if it wasn't,
Well, to move material off the property, you need a special use permit, so you're right.
Right.
So, okay, let's keep going.
okay, right. And then the next stage is, say we get the 2 and 3 on the right side of the driveway. That'll get planted, put some sprinkler systems in it, and we'll move on. We're gonna move up, or we're gonna move to behind where the big barn is.
How long is this gonna take?
I'd say like this year, we would go on the right side of the driveway and do that area first. And like, the reason that everybody sees like all the dirt piles and on the left side is because we had to build the ponds, and I have nowhere to put it, and real estate's cheap up high, so I just keep throwing it up there.
You'll need it for rock, you'll need it if the rocks.
Right, so that, both ponds are built, and that's the reason for the extra. And that's kind of what I was getting rid of. I mean, that's why material was coming off, so we can create room to do the work that we're doing. And so I guess, you know, yeah, the final phase is, there's a full, I think they call it a mitigation plan, I think. And it states that I am turning it back into, or turning it into bigger hay fields, you know?
Your final phase would be to restore farmland.
Right, but as we go, we're gonna plant and grow the new hay field, and then move along and do another section.
So 2018, your plan is to do the right side.
Yes. Yes. So that's gonna take, yeah, that'll take all year, this year, all the way up until the winter. But it's gonna be, I drove out next to the Foster Country Club, and I was looking at some of the older farms with the giant fields out there. That's what is in my mind. That's what I was going
We all
for.
want that, yeah.
And I've had a lot of inquiries on, you know, people that want to bring horses here, and they have a lack of different arenas, you know, for the horses to go. I have a couple people that are local that board their horse at my place, you know, 2 of them, and they love it there, you know, and I told them we're gonna build giant paddocks. I mean, and it'd be gorgeous when it's done. I think anybody that's a neighbor that is gonna walk through the woods and look at it, it's gonna be a Class A farm. It's not a run-of-the-mill thing, you know? It would put Foster on the map in farming. And I was talking to Ken Ayers from the Agricultural Department, and, you know, he's got me signed into the Open Space Act and all these things that will prevent this land from being developed. I have been approached by, I can't tell you how many solar companies come out and they tell me of the windmills, oh, put these, I had a guy offer me $1.5 million, write me a check right then, and I told him no.
Should have taken it.
No, but I mean, I have a desire, and I'm trying to do the right thing. That's why I'm here. I'm trying
It's been
to.
established that you're trying to do the best thing for the land. And you realize, as I stated before, and I can back it up, it never was a horse farm. It was an equestrian center, and it was a very nice equestrian center with beautiful paddocks and outbuildings and stables and an indoor rink. But you feel as though that wasn't good enough, you want to make it even better.
Yeah, there was nowhere for them to move around. There was nowhere to ride but the inside.
I mean, that was there for quite a while, and Ralph Foster did very well at it.
Yeah, it was a hobby farm.
Mr. St. Croix has a different vision, which is what was.
Okay, well, the vision right now is you want a permit to mine and remove.
Well, I'm here for a permit to remove,
Yeah.
and the mining is under the DEM, if I'm correct, or? It doesn't matter, I guess, I don't know.
So,
Part of it
let me ask,
is
how many horses is your vision? How big is this farm gonna be when it's done? Your vision
That's
is
not
how many
relevant,
horses?
Dave, excuse me.
Well, it is relevant, because horses you need 2 acres for the first horse, and then an acre for every horse after that.
I was gonna speak on that, as far as the amount of hay.
Yeah.
Because
That's
everybody's
what I'm
like,
getting at.
why are you building so big hay fields? Well, because the horses, and I don't wanna buy it if I can grow it.
That's within your right, you have the
I'm
property.
trying to create something with what I have. I'm not going for grants, I'm not going for these
Okay,
special
so
loans, I just
how
want to
many horses do
use,
you think you're gonna have, Brian, on the property?
probably like 20, you know? My daughter has a list of a couple she wants.
All right, let's move along.
Right, excuse me.
Yeah.
You made a statement earlier when we first started, that there's no money involved.
Can't hear you.
You made a statement earlier that there's no money in rock.
But the money is,
My question is, that leads me to believe that you're gonna take these boulders whole and take them off the property, because there's money in crushed rock.
the amount that it costs to crush it, it costs $2, it costs $1 every time you touch something. My excavator burns through $300 a day in fuel. Sometimes we have 4 machines, so it's thousands of dollars. It costs to hammer those rocks up it's $5 a ton. To crush them is another $5. To run them through a cone crusher is another $3. So that gets you up to $13. Now, if you decide to sell all that stone, you're gonna make $5, and then you're gonna get hit with a gravel tax.
So now what you're telling me.
It's not worth my time.
What you're telling me is you're not gonna crush stone on that property.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I have the permits to do so if I choose. It's not something that I'm doing this year. I have contacted seawall companies. I'm from Plymouth, and they're redoing seawalls out there. I'm trying to sell them my boulders. You know what I mean? It's like, come on down, I got tons of them. Because they pay a lot of money up there. They complain about the trucking. And I'm like, I'll give them to you. I have so many of them. I'm looking for the cheapest way out. I have no intention in making
So
like a permanent crushing.
I just need a clarification.
Well, that's what I'm,
The
Right.
intent is you will be crushing stone on the property.
possibly, I have the permits. It's just like my dewatering permit. I have a dewatering permit. In case we hit water in an area and it needs to be pumped out, we can do that. It doesn't mean I'm gonna do it, but if I hit an area where I have to, I will. You know, I try to set it up so that Decreed Engineering and GZA told me, these are the permits that you should have in line and get them because it's hard to go back and change. So get everything possible that you could even think of doing on the property. They also did, in the package, they did like sound studies. And the decibel reading from
If I
2000.
may, can we hold that off? I want to address that as an individual item.
Oh,
I agree, and I think that just to sum up, your question is,
Yeah.
the answer is, he really doesn't want to, because he's gonna lose money if he's crushing it. So, he's being 100% honest in that he doesn't want to, he won't make money, but if something comes up, he's not gonna mislead you and say he would never do it. but that's not the intent.
Can I ask a question? You made reference, do you have a permit for stone crushing?
Yes,
From who?
from the DEM.
What do they got to do with stone crushing?
You'd have to refer to them on that.
I think you should refer to them,
Well-
because it's classified here, and it says, and give me time, I'll find it, that is a separate entity. Processing stone and rock on site is a separate entity, and it falls under the town.
Well,
Assuming that you're correct, we don't need to address that tonight. If he's not allowed to crush those boulders, he won't.
You do need a.
But he's gonna remove the other material.
It's a special use permit in the town of Forster to crush stone.
So that's been
I thought we were talking about
established.
removal tonight.
Don't think it,
Well,
don't,
I think the question was asked, if you're gonna crush stone, and so if you plan on crushing stone, it's another.
That's another special.
I didn't
It
know,
wasn't requested.
I didn't know there was an ordinance against it, so,
I'm not saying it's against it, but you need a permit for it.
right. and,
We're not against anything. Bring
No,
it before
I
us.
know.
We'll look at it.
This is an
We'll look at it.
education for me as well, so I'm trying to absorb everything at the same time.
We understand.
Okay.
When somebody tells you go to the state, and that's where you go to get your permits, and all the engineers tell me that's where I go,
But
that's
can
what
we
I
move
did.
forward with what we need to move forward tonight so that he could begin his operation, because quite frankly, you know, he's running out of money. And if we can get this permit tonight, he can remove material, we can address that down the road, and he's shown that he's here when he's required to be here, and he's trying really hard to live up to.
No promise on finishing up tonight, because we have a time limit here. We have to vacate the building. And we're probably gonna try to wrap it up by 9:30. If we can't, we're gonna have to continue it. Now, anything else you'd like to state?
No, I'd like to have Brad from a traffic specialist come up
For
and...
traffic?
Yep.
Now, you have been before us in the past. Is traffic, before the planning board? Okay. Please use the microphone correctly, your hand is every word.
My name is Brad Leach. I represent Gordon R. Archibald. Our business is 200 Main Street, Pawtucket, Rhode Island. As Brian said, I did a traffic impact study for this use. I prepared it last year for the planning board. At that time,
Can I just ask counsel, would you like to be answered as an expert?
Pardon
Did you want his testimony to be entered, do you want the board to accept it as
Yes,
an expert?
yes.
Would you state your
Just give us the
qualifications?
background, yeah.
I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Syracuse University. I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of Rhode Island. I've been practicing for 30 years. My main duties, I work as a consultant for the Department of Transportation. So that's generally what I do. I work on traffic engineering projects for the Department of Transportation.
Impressive. Okay.
Thank you.
So as I was stating, I prepared this traffic impact study for this project for the planning board last year. As part of that study, we come out and look at the site. We took traffic counts both in the morning and in the afternoon. We then add to those counts the expected traffic that we expect to be generated from that site. What we had to do in this case is we talked to the proponent, and at that time he had somebody that was looking to help him with the gravel operations. And what they told us is they were expected to have 12 vehicles come off the site in any given hour. What that means is they'd have 12 vehicles coming off the site. Obviously, you'd have to have 12 vehicles entering the sites for a total of 24 trips.
Size of the vehicles, please.
We assume they would be trailer dumps. So we added those 24 vehicles to the roadway system. And as a worst-case scenario, we assume that they were all going to come out to this signal at Route 6. So we analyzed the before and after conditions at that signal. What we found is it made very little impact to the traffic operations there. Our counts, basically what you have at that signal, about 1,000 vehicles per hour over the 4 hours that we counted. We counted from 7 to 9 in the morning, then again 4 to 6 in the afternoon. So we caught the commuter peaks. Your commuter peaks out here 7 to 8, and then again it was 4:15, 5:15. So that kind of traffic, like 24 trips an hour, it's not going to impact the levels of service that you see out here. Even if you were to double that number, that's just it's a really small number, so you're not going to see a great impact as far as the delay at that signal. And what Brian's told me is that most of that traffic, all of that traffic can come out to that signal, and then they can go east or west on Route 6. Secondly, we looked at the driveway on Mount Hygeia Road. For that roadway, it's posted at 40. Trucks can pull out of that driveway safely. There's a sight distance that's required for safe stopping sight distance. For 40 miles per hour, it's 350 feet. It's well in excess of that 350 feet from that driveway. The lowest, looking to the north, was 550 feet. So there's an excess of what you need for safe stopping sight distance from that driveway. Also looked at the accidents at that signalized intersection. We at the police department pulled 3 years worth of crash data. What we found were there were a total of 10 accidents there at that intersection, pretty well spread out over the course of those 3 years. The only pattern that we did see a little bit of were the left turns into both directions of Route 94. But that should not impact his operations. If that ever were to get worse, that's something that the town could go back to DOT. When DOT put that signal in, they had the forethought to change that signal around to add the protected left turn. Right now it's protected permissive. But even the numbers that are right now are not at the level that they would probably change that signal. So on average, 3 crashes per year is not at that level that you would say, well, we've got a situation that really warrants something to look at. To sum up, the operations that they're going to look at adding, or the number of trips that they look at adding here, should not create an issue on this roadway.
So as far as you're concerned, it meets the criteria for wheels on the road, and that's what you're concerned about?
Yes, and they're located on a state highway. It's a rural minor arterial. The roadway width's adequate. So, yes.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Can I just add one thing to that? I had the chief of police look at police reports. If the date is wrong, it was within a week in July that I was taking out 50 or 60 trucks, and they were actually going up to the solar field up the street. They needed to build a road around, so the guy came down and seen me. At that time, there were no traffic incidents, no complaints, and no reports of traffic buildup or anything, and that was 60 trucks a day, and it didn't really cause a problem.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other experts you'd like to call?
Yes,
At the last of the planning board meeting, we had Is that something you're still okay with?
As long as they stop all the other trucks that go down that road. I don't know.
He will
Excuse me, sir.
comply with that.
Would you be sworn in? State your name.
My name is Al Betancourt, Alfred Betancourt. I live in Pasco, Rhode Island at the present moment. I am the former executive director of the Rhode Island Farm Bureau. I was the director for Farm Bureau for 15 years.
Excuse me, sir. You're here testifying as an expert for the
On
Farm Bureau
agriculture.
and farm use?
No, I'm not testifying for Farm Bureau. I'm testifying as a farm expert.
We are not covering that subject tonight, sir. And I would think we should disallow it, because what we're covering is traffic to and from and taking product off the property. I'm sure they could call on you
Do
later.
you have
for
questions
that.
for him then? If you don't want a presentation, he can make himself available for any questions.
Actually, I know that we've heard about the Right to Farm Act. Is that-
That's what I was going to address.
I would actually like to hear it.
At this time?
Yeah. How long is your
I
presentation?
don't think that
2
would
minutes.
be,
His presentation is
2 minutes.
He's not on the agenda. His presentation is 2 to 3 minutes. I'd like to hear it.
The relevance of that gravel back
So do I.
application.
So at
Well,
this
I'll make it
time,
relevant.
no, he has stated, Mr. LaCroix, I can appreciate where you're coming from, Paul, but at this time, he is before us with a specific application. We have a lot of people here, and we're gonna have enough trouble just addressing the specific application. We can,
2 minutes. I'd like to
You
hear
know what, I have no
it.
problem. Yeah, I think you're right. You know what, I think you're all absolutely right. He doesn't need to make a presentation. What we're saying is, are there any questions? If not, you know, we can sit down.
What I've discussed with Al in the past is, he was with the USDA, the Rhode Island Farming Bureau, and I spoke about farming laws.
well,
And the farming laws fall into exactly what I'm doing, because I'm creating hayfields. I'm not
Good.
building a parking lot, I'm not building anything
I'm
else.
glad they fall into your expectations, but they don't fall into ours.
Okay?
It's not on the agenda.
Anybody have any questions? Then you can sit down.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Betancourt.
Don't take it personally. Not yet. Any other experts?
We rest. Unless there's questions, concerns.
I have a question, specifically for a gentleman that you brought before us in the past, and his claim was to be an expert on sound. And I would not like to disallow his whole testimony and his whole finding, because I found his testimony very short in knowledge of, excuse me a minute. Okay. Okay, I've told, I have to consider his report is the correct way to address it. And I have some questions, because you said you were deferring the sound question to his report. So I feel I can address his report. Anybody that's ever worked around machinery knows that there's more to sound than just decibel level. Sound is a very, very vague science, and it's more the decibel level. Decibel level just refers to the pressure that the sound wave makes in its travel when it falls on the human ear.
Frequency you're thinking of.
I was disappointed that he made no reference to amplitude, force of the wave, and the pressure itself. What we have to understand with sound waves is decibel is logarithmic. for every increase, it's multiplied by 10. So if you go up 10 points, you're increasing by 100%. Now you're starting out, according to your report, at 115 decibels. This is not taking into consideration decibels, vibration, it's not taking into consideration amplitude. These are all things that have to be considered. You're saying that as the sound is produced, it'll be traveling downhill and it'll be buffered. I beg to differ. Have you taken into consideration the weather conditions, how it will carry? We all know it carries on foggy days more than it does on other times. It is a very, very inaccurate science, very close to air pressure. There are variables. I'll give you a minute. And I don't think they've been addressed. 115 decibels is loud. And you say at 500 feet, it's going to be considerably less. At 500 feet, it doesn't disappear. And you're going to have 2 stone crushers. We're talking stone crushers because you brought it up. And they're each at 115. At 80 decibels, it requires by OSHA standards that you have earmuffs.
Yes.
And all the men on site will have earmuffs because it will definitely be over 80 decibels.
Around the equipment, yes.
Just being in the area. The whole place is around equipment. You got stone crusher. How does the stone crusher work? It's a hammer crusher, isn't it?
No, it's a jaw crusher.
It's a what, please?
It moves in this motion.
Yeah, and it hammers.
No, it doesn't hammer it. It's a jaw crusher. It's not bang, 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 bang. It moves like this, and it crushes the rock in. What makes the noise is the generator. The rock crusher itself does not make that much noise. In the study that they do, when they study sound for any kind of equipment, they put the equipment at ground zero, or in that case, they put some of it next to the property line. Well, when they're figuring this sound, they don't account for trees, they account for nothing. The computer reads it as a flat surface. So if you bang a hammer and say it's a high frequency, it's a high pitch, and the wind is going west, well, yeah, if you're over there, it's going to be that way. And that kind of goes back to when I spoke on the large piles that buffer. I mean, GZA is one of the best engineering firms, and I can speak for Todd with his experience. He's got almost 30 years, and that's all he does.
Todd's not here. Thank you.
Well, but
you never put a stone crusher on the property to listen to it. I just maintain that it is an inexact science. And when you cannot accurately measure, you're going to have to make assumptions. We're doing this whole thing. Sound is probably one of the most important things to be considered. And part of you moving land or moving product off your land has to do with sound, and we've got to consider it. And if you get up anywhere near 80, it becomes oppressive, and it becomes a nuisance, and it becomes offensive.
I don't disagree, and I don't have that knowledge. How about you approve it without the stone crusher, and you apply separately, put an asterisk saying, this is approved, not subject to the stone crusher, and if he needs to put that on, he comes back and presents and asks permission for that.
And I would get a sound expert back here.
Did you get a copy of the staff report? I know you weren't entered previously, so maybe you didn't get a copy of the staff report.
No.
There was also a suggestion from the planning department that there be a special condition that you retain a certified safety professional to conduct decibel readings from 500 feet away of any accurate portion as you are going through your phases and then providing to the building inspector. So that might alleviate some of the issues with the
Yes.
And you'll agree to that.
We actually have a plan in there that they're coming out, they're going to be testing the water. So it's almost like a bleeder on the ponds. The water weeps out and they test that. They're also going to be testing for sound. And I know that there's a whole video done, and it shows walking behind piles, stepping way back. And by the time that we got to the equivalent of the border on my property, it was down to 55 decibels, which a conversation goes to 60, 65. Yes, you hear it, but it turns into like the sound of an air conditioner running on a house.
Tom, where's that thing? You've got it
I
noted.
think you probably just, the board needs to agree on what the decibel was with that.
Do you ever figure out what the decibels were in here when people were yelling and screaming?
Yeah.
He got me, well, 55 is not a person. But may I read?
65 decibels is the, I think it is a state requirement that you have to stay under, and we are at 55.
He just handed me a paper that,
But do you guys have a sound expert here? Somebody?
No, if I may, there's something you have to take into consideration.
Right.
Okay? You're talking about 55, 65 decibels. And if it was something like a car horn, I could agree with you. This is something that's gonna run all day long. It makes a total difference. When you get a bin that's running all day long, it's gonna make a difference to the surrounding area, regardless of how quiet it is.
Well,
If he does do the crushing.
if I do the
Hold on a
crushing,
second, that's the problem.
let me quote from, if I may. I'm quoting from the ordinance concerning noise. This is written, and it is section 82-11, paragraph 193, section 1. Sounds by means of the human voice or by any other means or methods which are physically annoying to persons, or which are so harsh or so prolonged, what he's referring to, or unnatural or unusual in their use, time and place, as to occasion physical discomfort, of which are injurious to the lives, health, peace, comfort, inhabitants of the town. That's what we're addressing. You can tell me 55 decibels. I know what 55. I worked in machinery all my life.
I have a meter.
55 isn't bad.
I have a meter in my truck.
I'm sorry?
I have a decibel meter in my truck that shows.
You got a stone crusher in your pocket?
Well, let's just say he never puts a stone
Okay,
crusher.
hold on, guys, hold on. Before you make that statement on the record, the application doesn't ask for a special use permit, subsection 24, for a rock crusher. Yet, Edward Pimentel's gravel bank extraction operation permit application has added, over and above gravel bank subsection 23, you've put in subsection 24, material processing and stone crushing. Now, you're telling me under oath that you're not gonna have a stone crusher, it's not profitable.
He
No.
didn't say that.
No.
You didn't?
No, what he said was, no, he didn't say that. He said clearly that, and he said that he didn't anticipate it, and he didn't want to have one because it was a money loser, but yet he wanted to be able, if he get the approval, great, at least he has that in his pocket, but he wasn't anticipating it, but
So are you applying for a gravel bank extraction special use permit or a subsection 24 rock crushing special use permit? They're two different things.
We are looking for a special use permit to remove the material off of the property.
I get that. That's
Should,
gravel bank.
should the rock crushers be needed, which I've been trying to avoid, I think I explained the money factor and the whole thing.
So if you have a real big boulder and you have to make it manageable, you might have to reduce it in size.
Well, you know the giant boulders that are in the field across the street? They will end up drilling those down, they'll put a big mat on top and it'll go, and it'll be broken.
well, we're getting off the topic.
Yeah,
Well, that's a deal breaker.
Not really, because for me, it matters with the noise level.
I agree.
If you say we're not gonna do a rock crusher unless we absolutely have to, and then 2 days in for the rest of the project, there's a stone crusher, what do I do then?
No.
Well, how about,
Well, you're saying that there's no definitive answer.
why don't we get, well, we can give you one, then if we have to tonight to get the approval, he won't put one until he comes back with more facts.
Okay,
Well, you need
we're
a
saying you
special
need a separate special use permit, do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay.
So in that special use permit, I will come back with GZA, a sound engineer,
We're gonna do a separate approval. That works out great.
I like that.
and I'll,
I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that, but I mean, I like the fact that you understand that this isn't a blanket everything's covered.
No.
He's asking for anything and we're compromising.
I'm trying to figure this out
Well, you're not
here
really
with you.
compromising, or you're not really compromising, counsel, you're filing the application incorrectly. It didn't include a rock crusher. In this application I have on record, it's for gravel bank, not for rock crushers. Two different things in our town.
Okay,
I
so.
want to make that clear.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, moving right along. Any other special?
Can I mention about the noise?
Yes, ma'am.
One thing I noticed in the report that wasn't there.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Would you introduce yourself? We have a new town planner,
Yes.
and she's jumped right into the fray, and we'd like her to introduce herself.
Sure, I'm Jennifer Siciliano, and I'm the new town planner of Foster. I just started 3 days ago, but I've been a municipal planner before. So 5 years the city planner of Woonsocket, and I've done consulting, so I have some experience. I've read through the noise study, and one of the things I saw missing was a test of what it currently is, because one of the important things is substantial change from what it currently is to what it's proposed to be. And
So do we have a benchmark study?
yes, well, yeah, we don't, and I know for a fact that anything 10 to 15 decibels higher than what is current is considered a substantial change. So that's something that will affect the piece of your.
So it would be good if I came back with a study that they just measured there, like the Sound of Route 6 and things
Yeah,
like
what's the
that.
normal
And then
everyday
if you had a
sound?
rock
We need a
crusher-
benchmark.
Okay, well, that I can do.
To start with.
Right.
No, I think we've taken the rock crusher off the table.
Yeah,
It's not in contention, it's not in debate.
we'll come back.
If you figure you need one, then you have to come back to us with another special use.
Yes.
Which probably next year or something, I don't know.
All right. Anything else?
No, sir.
I
Thank
have
you,
a
sir.
question of the gentleman on traffic. In the latest report that we received in reference to the special use permit, it's anticipated that upwards of 96 loads during peak periods will be removed per day. Now, you mentioned earlier when you spoke, 12 trucks in, 12 trucks out. Is this 96 trucks in, 96 trucks out?
No, that's 96 trips, okay? So that's the total in
Talking
and
trip,
out.
round trip.
In and out.
A trip is either in or out.
So we're talking.
So that would be
We're not talking
12
96, we're talking.
48 loads out and 48 trucks
So
returning
what you're
in to
telling
pick up a
me
load.
is 96 trucks, that includes both ways.
Correct. A trip would be either in or out.
And it also states here that this translates to an average of 12 truckloads per hour, which is insignificant.
Would you consider that the maximum take? On some days where weather's bad or things don't go well, it could be less.
Like I said, it's on an assembly line.
Right.
I understand that.
That's the maximum that you can see attributed to the day?
Well, like I said, I led 60 trucks out a day, so there was 120 trucks.
What he's asking is that the high cap, not yes.
Yeah.
Right, it's yes.
Yeah.
And also, when he's talking about insignificant, it's all, I mean, all those things are all relative, right? I mean, insignificant or significant, but the fact is that's many trucks are going out, but when you compare it to the flow on that road, there's what, 25,000 vehicles.
Well, again, the counts at this intersection up here, 94 and 6, during a peak hour, there were a total of approximately 1,000 vehicles during that hour going through that intersection. So you add 8 more or 12 more vehicles to that intersection. That's what I mean by insignificant.
So as it states in your statement here, we're talking about one truck every 5 minutes.
Exiting, yeah.
So that'll be one coming in also.
Correct.
Once they start by
Correct.
circle, they'll loop. You're gonna have one coming out, one
Correct.
going in.
Or you might have 5 coming in, 1 going out. could be.
That's an average.
It's-
We work on average.
You know, it's not,
Okay. That's all I
You're gonna have pertinent signs that say to the drivers, no Jake brakes?
that was one of the biggest things that I went over. I said, even though I recorded a ton of them going down Route 6, and I would imagine that, I mean, I told the guys, if there's anything like that, you're out. You can't.
You
you
can put that in
can't-
as a condition of your
It will definitely be in, because you've got a driveway to turn into, you've got to stop when you turn onto Route 94, you've got a traffic light to contend to, and does everyone know what a Jake brake is? Okay, that's the loud noise that when they're decelerating, they're using the engine. It's annoying. Thank you.
Can I just
Okay.
throw something out there one minute? I just want to ask.
You're being advised.
I know.
That's what you're paying for.
I know.
Take his advice. Stay out of trouble.
The fact that you're against the use, the fact that you're aware of it.
That's it.
And you're going, yeah, it's
Okay.
fine.
Now, anything else that you'd like to present?
No, sir.
Okay. Do we need a comfort break? Anyone need a break? Just to relax. We will not discuss any part of what's going on tonight. Talk about the weather. No more than 5 minutes.
Intermission.
Intermission.
Just get the popcorn.
Say yes, no, down the line. Let's not say no. Just say, to extend, renew, shall trigger a new special use permit. Okay, so yes. All correspondence, yes. Wait a minute. Sure. I have no idea what those bonds Well, I don't think it's what's I understand that, but shall be confined to 94. Why? Right, I'm just saying, I want to change it to 7.
Sure, evergreen trees. Read out what the fuck's in the tree, evergreen. Yeah, I know, that's a problem. Well, I know, well, why don't we talk about it? I'm sorry, Al. I'm sorry, Al. I thought it was more relevant. Ready to get back to work?
Can we just wait a little bit? Just wait.
Oh, all right.
Sorry.
Are you showing me a
Just grab a seat. So there's no,
Please take your seats, go back to order. We ready? All together? Back to order. I'm going to read from the staff report on the special conditions that we might care to institute. These will be special conditions to consider in conjunction with a special use permit. And it's in the affirmative, so we're just saying what they stated.
we're just going to ask the applicant if they're agreeable.
Oh, all right, we're asking if you're agreeable.
We are,
Can you read them first? Approval shall run concurrent with RIDEM multiple sector general permit MSGP RIR 50J007. An application to RIDEM to extend or renew the MSGP shall trigger a new special use permit application with the town. All requirements of the
You're okay with that?
affirmative.
Okay.
Thank you. All requirements of the RIDEM approval shall be met, and the town shall be copied on every correspondence to and from the RIDEM. Affirmative. Pursuant to Chapter 26, Soil Erosion and Sediment Control in the Town of Foster Code of Ordinances, the building inspector will review the DEM-approved soil erosion and sediment control plan and perform periodic inspections to ensure conformance with the plan, as well as final inspection, and the applicant will be responsible for the associated review and inspection fees. Affirmative. 4, applicant shall retain a registered professional engineer to conduct required inspections, and all inspections and monitoring reports kept with the DEM-approved soil erosion and sediment control plan shall be provided to the building inspector upon request. Any corrective actions must be reported within 5 working days to the building inspector. Affirmative. 5, a bond shall be posted to cover the cost of the stabilization, conversion of the land and stormwater draining systems, calculated by a registered professional engineer and accepted by the building inspector.
Affirmative.
Council, can I add something to that?
Yes.
I'd like to add as item 6,
Well, there is an
Haven't
item
read it yet.
6. But go ahead.
There's an item 10.
That's all right, you can add, you can,
oh, okay, let's add it in, okay, never mind, I'll wait.
all right.
6, applicant shall retain a certified safety professional.
So this would involve the decibel reading, but do we need this if we're not gonna have storm pressure?
Yes,
He was gonna do it anyway.
Okay.
yes, I see we
So
do.
I think we need to figure out a decibel amount, because just because there's a reading, how do we know what amount, what the decibel
Is it
reading
good at that?
within?
We've got a chart to go by that we can reference to. They're gonna set a
They're gonna set a
baseline.
baseline, a benchmark.
And then you can't go 10 or 20 above?
Can't go 15 above.
All right.
So 15 above the benchmark becomes a nuisance.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe the benchmark is 65.
Yeah, and that sounds about right from what the planner's saying.
So we're agreeable. That's good.
Hold on, it's the percentage of change.
Yes.
So if the reading is 40, then your math doesn't work, because you can't go above 55 before it becomes a nuisance. You see,
Right,
if
yeah.
you've got a 15 decibel change, that's the issue from the
Understood.
benchmark, okay?
Understood.
So let's, before we say numbers, we can talk percentages of change. We can visit that.
It's 15 points above
Yes.
baseline.
15 points against the baseline benchmark study taken
Yes.
in a sedentary day.
Right, yes. Okay.
Calm day.
So, I will read this, it's going to need to be recorded. So the applicant shall retain a certified safety professional to conduct a benchmark decibel reading. The town building inspector shall be present at that reading. From there on a bi-monthly basis, the applicant shall retain a safety professional to conduct a decibel reading from 500 feet away to any active portion of the subject site, and shall furnish the findings within 5 working days to the building inspector. At no time shall the decibel reading be 15 decibels above the benchmark.
Correct.
Okay, 2 things. So that's gonna move based on the moving target, because your piles, your segments are gonna change, correct? So as your
They go down.
As your plan progresses and you move along, then those readings are gonna have to be taken within 500 feet of that new location.
Right, of the active site.
And the reason, how it's gonna work is as they do the section, it creates a wall. So it's, equipment's here, the wall is here. So, I mean, yeah, sound goes up, but it's not gonna venture out that way.
Yeah, but most of the abutters are on the low side of the wall.
The meters will
Yeah.
lie.
No, okay.
Okay.
One other thing, if the readings go above 15 dB, what happens? What
It has to be reviewed,
Well,
and he's in violation.
it's a violation. Yeah.
So until they're corrected, there'll be another cease and desist. We gotta correct them. Okay, 7, hours of operation or transportation shall not coincide with peak AM or PM traffic and shall be confined to Monday through Friday, 9 AM to 4 PM. Traffic shall be routed only onto Route 6, east or west. Now, that's a change from what you originally required or asked for. You asked to go north and south on 94 and... Go ahead.
Well, at the planning board meeting, I changed it because a lot of people, I mean, it goes uphill, so the truck's gonna be floored, and there's no reason they can't go right to Route 6 and go right or left, because they can get anywhere from there.
Okay, so this reads,
Right.
you'll
Simple
agree with
question.
it.
You know, and this makes perfect sense. The only question we had was the 9 AM, the 9 AM timeframe. would it be possible to modify that to just make it 8, therefore you could have put a full day, you know, have a work day in there, instead of 9, make it 8? What, is that
What's
okay?
the school?
What's the board?
Sorry.
Not the ordinance.
I have a question for the audience. What time does school start here? Anyone? 9?
You know, people work in second shift, they go home at 1 o'clock at night, you know.
Yeah, we gotta go. Well, I'm not gonna discuss this tonight. We'll talk about it later.
You're in a residential area.
Well, if we did, instead of 9 AM, then pushed it to 5, so we go 9 to 5 instead of 8 to 4? So we're not waking
I'll
anybody?
let that.
So you're looking to get a certain amount of hours?
Yeah, what's the other day's pay for the guys?
Okay, so
Okay, moving on.
it's a compromise for this stipulation.
You agree to that? The easement to the town of Foster for use, maintenance, and repair of a dry fire hydrant recorded in book 168, page 908, shall be observed and open access to the hydrant preserved, hydrant approved by RIDEM for the South Foster Fire Department and recorded in book 169 at page 831.
Probably, we've already done that. Yep.
9, mature evergreen trees shall be planted at the north property line to help visually and audibly buffer the operation from the adjacent abutters, and such planting appropriate to the soil shall be verified by the building inspector prior to formal local approval of soil erosion and sediment control. I'd like to address that.
So
What's a mature tree?
I was gonna say the same thing. It's like the definition of what is.
We asked first.
It's up to you, I don't
What
know.
would you be comfortable with?
I don't even know what a mature evergreen tree is. What is it, Brian?
It's a fully grown tree, and those trees are mature evergreen trees.
Why don't we do
It's
this?
matured.
So when we pick a height, Brian?
Yeah, we're looking for a height.
I have existing white pines flourishing everywhere, and my idea was to plant those because they grow thicker and they have more coverage. Those other trees are probably gonna be $300 a piece.
Okay, so if you,
Wait a minute.
no, I'm asking, what height do you think you're gonna plant? That's the
Be
question.
careful, because you're gonna have to live up to it.
We'll measure them.
I have no idea, I'm not a landscaper. I
Well,
don't
we got to
know.
establish that because we just ran into that issue.
Oh,
And
oh.
personally, I would like to see it built on top of a berm.
I asked that, they wouldn't let me. The DEM told me no, because it's not part of the plan. I said, well, they want a buffer.
Plan for what, drainage?
No, well, the whole plan, the whole site plan. They go by what's on the site plan. If I plant trees, they might give me a hard time. I'll plant them.
Look, you got an 8-foot tree on the ground, and what have you got? 8 feet.
Right.
Put an 8-foot tree on top of a 4-foot berm, you got a 12-foot.
I would love to do that.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do.
All right, we don't know about drainage.
Because it does change the soil
Can we do
erosion
that?
plan, and you're not invited.
Well, what if we just agreed?
Can we say adequate?
12?
Penalty.
Sorry.
How about we settle on an 8-foot tree?
Done.
8 foot or higher. 8 foot or higher. At minimum 8 foot. Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
That
Counting,
gives you a chance to use the ones that you
counting the berm.
Not counting the
No
road.
berm.
No berm.
No berm at this
We
point.
don't want to change the drainage plan.
No, not.
Okay. All right, I get you.
Okay, now, I'd like to add one for the record. So let's say stipulation number 10. You must agree to obtain a special use permit to operate a rock crusher pursuant with Article 4, Section 11, subsection 24. You can, in writing, this is gonna be matter of record.
No problem.
You cannot operate a crusher without obtaining a permit first, a special use permit.
Right, that's why we need the sound study done, again.
Whatever the reason. You understand that you need a permit before you do that,
Perfect.
okay? It's being entered. Okay, let me start calling.
Yep. Applicants all set?
Yep.
All right, so
We seen it. Okay, we'll start entertaining presentation from the abutters And we'd like to start with counsel for any of the abutters. Give them the first chance to address us. We have what, 2? Just the one? We ask if he's in favor.
Are there any butters who wish to speak in favor of the council?
Any abutters present that want to speak in favor with counsel?
So you're just speaking as,
I represent the Sparks family, they're abutters and they're objecting to the requested.
so you're objecting to the request?
Yes, we are objecting.
Yes, you may speak.
Mr. Chairman, I have a written
Just a
objection.
minute, please. Young lady.
Oh,
You're sworn in, but
No,
please state
she
there.
doesn't. She doesn't.
You know,
my name is Dylan Count, for the record.
into the point.
Sorry.
There you go.
So I have a written objection and some exhibits, if I may approach, that I would like to be entered into the record. Yes, I have copies for everyone.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry.
I thought those were your objections.
My objection is about this big. This is the actual written letter. And then I have the full transcripts of the planning board meetings. They've been highlighted. I don't have one. It's 100 pages.
You've got the staff report.
And then I have all the exhibits that I referenced throughout the letter. There's a file on it.
Yeah, I need a bigger briefcase.
Is there anything you'd like to verbalize at this time?
Yes.
Use the microphone into the end.
Yes. If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'm actually going to address a point that, 2 points that were just brought up very recently in the applicant's presentation, and then I'm going to move back to my written objection. Specifically, this board recognized the fact that there was no application for stone crushing in front of it, and placed a condition that there would be no stone crushing. Previously, this board upheld a notice of violation that found that the activity at the site amounted to section 13 of the use table, mining. So this board has already held that the activity that the proposed use is mining, and therefore they need a special use permit in order to accomplish that. So, to be consistent with this board's own rulings on the activity at the site, the applicant is required to go back to planning, propose a special use permit specific for the mining operation, and then come back here. In addition, this board just placed a condition on the application that said there will be no change in the sound levels greater than, I believe it was 15 decibels. In the applicant's own report, it states that there's a table on page 3 by their sound expert, GZA, that states that the ambient noise present at the site is equivalent to 30 decibels, and the work will be at 55. So as a matter of the record already presented by counsel, not even my expert, his expert has declared already that he cannot comply with that condition. So accordingly, he cannot receive the special use permit that is requested this evening because of the condition that he's already agreed to place on it. Those two things being said, I'm going to move back to my written objection. I will not read the entire thing into the record, but I do want to highlight some key issues. The application here is so procedurally flawed that the town of Foster actually risks legal liability for damages. My client has already presented the town council with a notice of claim underneath Rhode Island General Laws 4515.5. The town council has not timely responded. That means that any further violations of the zoning code that are allowed to occur at that site, as they have occurred historically at that site, are claims of action that my client can bring against the town. Allowing further incursions and violations of the zoning code effectively creates increased claims. I say that because I'm obligated to give notice to municipal bodies of issues so that there's an opportunity to cure them. Secondly, the proposal, when you look at in detail what the application says, and review in detail the quotes on the transcript, the characterization as a gravel bank and the characterization as temporary falls short. It's the applicant's own statements on the record that this is a large-scale, multi-year gravel extraction and stone crushing operation that will require 3 to 5 employees working full-time, 6 days a week to extract and crush stone to load approximately 35,000 separate 25-yard truckfuls of material because they have 850,000 cubic yards of stone to resell. It is a truly massive undertaking. If you read the comments and the findings made by the planning board members, the general objection was as to the scale of the operation, and I would concur. A gravel bank may be a suitable use in an AR district, but a gravel industry is not. And what we're talking about is something that functions on the scale of an industry for more than 2 years. It's an incredibly severe application and not something that's generally contemplated by an agricultural residential zone. Because of some of the procedural issues, the lack of the application for the special use permit for stone crushing, the lack of the application for a special use permit for mining, the application would fail as a matter of law. I actually believe when you look at the entirety of the use table and you compare it with the proposal that has been made a matter of record, there is additional areas that require additional relief. Foster Town Code Article 4 Zone Regulations Description of Uses, Wholesale and Business Storage, subsection 2. This is code that requires a special use permit for open lot storage of gravel. And it includes the additional performance standard that all gravel must be behind a screen that is no higher than 6 feet. And not only should this be a condition on any license granted, but it's actually a separate special use permit that needs to be applied for. So any gravel piles need to be less than 6 feet high and behind a screen, and it needs a special use permit in order to acquire that. Also, Foster Town Code, Article 4, Zone Regulations, Description of Uses, Wholesale and Business Storage. This is comparable. It has the same sort of 6-foot requirement specific to the gravel. Moving forward, there's actually 3 separate areas that I think the totality of this proposal, basically because of its scale, as completely unique to any other operation in Foster and the history of Foster as far as I know, is Foster Town Code Article 4, Description of Uses, Office Uses, subsection 4, which prohibits office use for wholesale uses. So this is a complete prohibition. You can't even apply for a special use permit. The issue is wholesale. Wholesale isn't defined explicitly within the Foster Town Code. That means that we go to the average definition in something like Webster. And what wholesale is defined as is the selling of goods in large quantities to be retailed by others. I would suggest the resale 850,000 cubic yards of gravel is more than sufficient to qualify as wholesale. The same issue comes up again underneath business uses subsection 11. That's because of its building materials, and that's a prohibited use. Again, you cannot even receive a special use permit for this. Storage of building materials and wholesale building materials are expressly prohibited by the town code. And then again, we bump into wholesale a third time under subsection 1 that prohibits the wholesale storage of gravel in the building. In a building, so the gravel cannot be contained within a building if that was a part of the application. I believe the applicant described the large-scale building he has on site. There's another special use permit that's required anytime the building is above 120 square feet. I believe believe you mentioned it was approximately 20,000 square feet. That is another issue that needs to be addressed. So to bring back those several areas of law that are requiring relief that the applicant has not applied for, in some areas where he cannot receive, if the operation were to go forward, given that this explanation has been made, it is submitted in writing. If any court has a finding that I am in fact correct on any of my provisions, this would amount to a knowing violation of town code, and that would be a per se showing of a willful refusal to enforce the town of Foster's laws. That sort of willful violation creates a serious liability on behalf of municipalities. And actually recently the Superior Court has shifted, and it has begun to hold zoning boards, and I know because I represent several, liable for findings that don't conform to law. So not only would it be a reversal of the action of the zoning board, but there would be damages held against the town. Now, this brings us back to the merits of the application. Now, there are several standards that the applicant must meet. The applicant didn't even mention the standards this evening, much less meet them. His presentation was completely bereft of the minimum requirements necessary to receive a special use permit under any condition, under any facts. Specifically, Rhode Island General Laws 452442B3 that creates the requirement upon towns to place conditions on the granting of special use permits. The town of Foster has done that in their code with section 38324D2. These requirements that the proposal does not alter the general character of the surrounding area or impair the purpose of the zoning code, and that it must conform to the town comprehensive plan. There was no presentation this evening to the effect of any of those things. So, quite frankly, the idea that they've met their burden without suggesting a single point to that front, I don't see how that can logically follow. That said, I will proceed to show the opposite, because I believe the record shows the opposite. Now, we incorporate by reference the entirety of the administrative record. I think of particular interest is many sections of the transcript from the presentation to the planning board. That said, the character of the area is overwhelmingly residential. The immediate abutters are mostly single-family residential. And again, the majority of this on the record is actually presentations and documents submitted by the applicant. I am not submitting adversarial documents. I'm relying upon his own information. The AR zone itself within the town of Foster is stated as a mixed agricultural and residential zone designed to preserve the rural character of the town with some limited light industrial uses available by special use permit. The notion that this scale of operation for the period of time being contemplated fits within the concept of either agricultural or residential doesn't hold up to weight. The concept that it is light industrial, I would suggest that light industrial at any scale, particularly a scale that's 850,000 cubic yards of material, far surpasses what's designed for protecting the rural character of the town. Over the course of the application, the applicant has described the proposed use as 46 acres of surface mining. Actually, between the presentation to the planning board and this evening, that increased to approximately 5 acres. I believe the information provided to the planning board was that it was 41 acres. The applicant's own description of it is surface mining. That again brings up subsection 13 of the use code, which requires a special use permit for mining. The actual description of the application is a, quote, gravel bank extraction operation. Not just a bank, but an extraction operation. If you look up the word extraction, it comes up throughout the town of Foster Town Code, and it has very specific requirements. It actually falls underneath the terms for development. It requires site plan review. It requires an additional set of 17 performance standards. That is underneath, let's see, Town Code 38.394F. The applicant hasn't, at any point in this presentation, either this evening or before the planning board, address any of those performance standards. They're seeking to remove 800, I apologize, I'm a little bit repetitive here, I just want to make sure I have everything in the record. They're seeking to remove 850,000 cubic yards of stone from the earth. Then they seek to crush and process that stone on site. I understand they've stated the opposite this evening and agreed to a restriction this evening, but that runs contrary to their entire presentation before the planning board and their actual application itself, which describes in detail the processing and crushing of stone. I would also suggest that Foster Town Code requires any application for a special use permit to first go before the planning board, and if the applicant wishes to so substantially change his application, he needs to go back to the planning board. In addition, at the planning board meeting, the applicant admitted that the removal and or crushing of stone may require a hydraulic hammer. That's critical because the sound expert admitted on the record during the same evening that the sound testing data did not include an analysis of the noise coming from the hydraulic hammer. So the equipment necessary to perform the proposed use was not the equipment rated to measure the actual sound impact. And regardless, based on the restriction that they placed upon themselves this evening, they're already above the minimum sound requirement. The applicant also, during the planning board meeting, and this is the issue that I have with the characterization seems to shift. When it's just, we're going to take a little bit of gravel, and then we're going to move over, and then we're going to take a little bit of gravel, and then when you read the planning board transcript, when pressed, his engineer would not guarantee that blasting would not occur on site. There's a refusal on the behalf of his engineers to guarantee that no blasting would ever occur. The removal and crushing of stone is again going to require 3 to 5 full-time employees working 6 full days a week. The trucking of material will be used 25-yard, 18-wheel trucks. The total amount of truckloads will be approximately 35,000 full trucks. That means that there will be 70,000 25-yard, 18-wheel trips in and out of that site over the course of a 2.5-year period. I understand that the traffic expert is kind of describing that as an insignificant figure, but I would challenge anyone living within the 200-foot radius of a site and see if they think 70,000 18-wheel trips next to their home is insignificant, especially in a rural area. This process is going to take at least 2 full years. The applicant this evening said maybe a year and a half. That's distinct from his commentary and consistent commentary throughout his application to the planning board. Several members of the planning board already made affirmative findings that the scale of the operation is too great for an AR zone and the character of the surrounding area. So that's really in summation of what's been presented to this board, and as a matter of the record, what is the actual proposed use. So when we actually consider the use as it's been proposed as a matter of the record, the use falls under 3 distinct prohibited uses and requires 5 special use permits. They've requested 1 special use permit. They're falling well short of their necessary burden. And I don't know this gentleman. I do not mean to cast aspersions in any way, shape, or form. But oftentimes when you apply for one thing, when you in fact need 8, it's because you cannot get the other 7. And I think attempts to circumvent the town code need to be met with the utmost concern. Now, as I stated earlier, there are minimum standards, performance standards, and criteria that need to be suggested for the granting of any special use permit. While there is nothing specific for a gravel bank underneath Rhode Island law and Foster Town Code, and it is outlined in detail within the staff report. And if you want to grab the staff report, I'm actually going to follow each of the 14 points as put forward in the staff report. The applicant has made an argument that his application supports granting on any of these 14 points. I suggest to you that there are, for each of these 14 points, reasons to deny. I'll start at the top with number 1. The applicant has given no indication of how the proposed use supports the health, safety, and general welfare of the town. On the contrary, the sounds and dust, as well as the truck traffic, amounts to a negative impact on the health, safety, and welfare of the town. Something else that has come to my attention this evening is the fact that this mining operation is going to cut into a hill 34 feet. It's going to create a 34-foot cliff. The creation of a 34-foot cliff is the creation of what's known as an attractive nuisance. An attractive nuisance is an object that children tend to, find their way near in one way or another, and it creates a health and safety hazard. That's why there's state laws everywhere about if you have a pool, you need to have a fence around your pool. It's to protect neighboring children because the pool is, by definition, an attractive nuisance. This 34-foot cliff is the creation of an attractive nuisance that jeopardizes the health and safety of the children of the town of Foster, particularly considering its proximity to a school. 2, the proposed use is of a scale wholly inappropriate for a residential zone and will alter the character of the surrounding area for years. They keep on describing that this will be a temporary operation. If temporary is 2 years, I think I'm just barely 2 years into my marriage, right? Is that temporary still? So I think the level of permanence here is measured by the level of impact it has on the surrounding area. 2 years of a non-stop industrial scale gravel extraction operation next to someone's home will have not only the damage to their quiet and peaceful enjoyment of their property, but also to their property value. If you consider the level of nuisance and sustained nuisance that is, I don't think anyone that wants to live in the rural peace and quiet of the town of Foster envisions themselves moving into adjacent to the gravel operation. Number 3, the proposal impacts on the watershed area, the truck traffic near the schools, and the noise and dust of the residences. The industrial intensity of the operation all go against the orderly development of a residential and agricultural area designed to preserve the rural character of the town. There's nothing in this application that preserves the rural character of Foster or the residential character of the immediate surrounding area. Number 4, the noise, pollution, dust, lack of municipal soil sediment control approvals, and I go into great detail within my letter about there is a whole host of town codes in which their application does not conform to. They do not meet minimum requirements for permits, for applications, for pre-conference meetings, etc. But it's in the letter. I won't torture everyone this evening. The lack of municipal soil sediment control approvals, and their unknown impacts in the watershed area, specifically considering its relationship to the Scituate Reservoir. These are each clear and direct violations of this purpose of zoning. Number 5, the introduction of heavy industrial use for a period of years adjacent to a historic cemetery within the Scituate Reservoir's watershed disrupts the natural, historic, cultural, and scenic character of this area. Number 6, the introduction of a heavy industrial use to 41, and actually, again, that is at 46 acres. So the introduction of a heavy industrial use to 46 acres of former undisturbed land used to be attached to a single-family residence does not preserve or promote the agricultural production, forest, silviculture. I had to look that up. That's the culture of trees. I thought it was interesting. Aquaculture, timber resources, open space, or recreation. Number 7, and actually this is I thought a great purpose of zoning. Not everyone has this. It's what the impact will be on public expenditure and the infrastructure around the area. I think that's an important consideration. So the stress, wear, and tear of the trucks that are hauling gravel that will place on the roads will negatively impact the public investment on the roadway infrastructure in that area. Number 8, the noise and dust pollution will so damage the quiet and peaceful enjoyment of the surrounding single-family homes that their primary use as a rural and peaceful sanctuary for families will be significantly damaged. Number 9, applicants have still not outright guaranteed that they will not use any blasting. Blasting in a residential zone is a near guarantee of a man-made disaster. Number 9 is specific to concerns regarding man-made disasters, and I've drawn back to the creation of an attractive nuisance. You know, the stability of the hill, its proximity to a school, I think that is a man-made disaster waiting to happen. Number 10, it cannot be said that the application provides for a high level of quality and design when the application itself attempts to skirt the requirement for site plan review. Development at this scale, as a matter of Foster Town Code, requires site plan review, and none has occurred. So if none has occurred, what can be said about the quality of the design? Number 11, the heavy industrial use flies directly in the face of the comprehensive community plan's desire to maintain a rural community. Number 12, the proposal does nothing to support the coordination of land uses with the surrounding municipalities. There's been no indication that the surrounding municipalities are craving for some fresh crushed snow. Number 12, the proposal does not support, oh, excuse me, I just read that one. Number 13, the application attempts to skirt the requirement to actually request the relief desired. This procedural chicanery flies in the face of the efficient review of development proposals. I am on a board myself, and I represent many boards. I believe one of the hardest things about it is you can only rule on what is brought before you. What this application does is not bring before you the totality of its impact. It attempts to describe itself as a minor portion of some further goal in the future, and yet the facts of the matter, 850,000 tons, cubic yards, 70,000 truck trips, 2.5 years, 3 to 5 full-time employees. It's a massive undertaking. And 14, the zoning ordinance procedures therein have not been complied with, so it can't be said that that goal of zoning has also been complied with. Again, I'll mention one more time that because of the level of extraction and the scale of the operation, it qualifies as development, or specifically other development. There are issues with FEMA, the flood map. None of those were addressed. And then again, all of the 17 performance standards set forth vis-a-vis code 38.394F. I have my own list of requested conditions. This is kind of assuming in arguendo that the board decides to grant the application despite our objections. There are 17 of them listed therein. All of them fall directly underneath the purposes of the conditions as set forth by both Rhode Island General Laws 452443 and Foster Town Code 38324E. Specifically, these conditions are designed to minimize the gravel bank's impact on abutters, control when the gravel bank use must be completed, control for the time of day, the length of time that the gravel bank may operate, designate the exact location and nature of the gravel bank, and require detailed records to substantiate compliance with these conditions. As I sit here today, and based on the presentation I witnessed this evening, I concur entirely with your additional condition that requests that he not crush stone at the site, and with the request that they not operate at peak hours. And now I have to come back to different issues that came up throughout their presentation. I thought straight from the top, the fact that the school district and the water supply board each objected was incredibly important, because it's hard to identify more important bodies to the welfare of the general public. One of the standards they must meet is a statement that it will not negatively impact the welfare of the general public. Now we have the planning board saying it will negatively impact the welfare of the general public. We have the school district saying it will negatively impact the welfare of the general public, and we have the water supply board stating that it will negatively impact the welfare of the general public. I think each of those bodies represents a significant portion of the population. And actually, I believe council, is it Smiloff? I apologize, sir. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes, you are.
So you stated you were VP and General Counsel, but VP and General Counsel of what? Is there a corporation that's applying this evening?
It's his business, and I'm basically involved in quality.
Yes, sorry.
That's fine, I'm happy to answer.
But
Sorry,
the
I
applicant
apologize.
is a limited liability company. The applicant is State Security LLC.
Thank you, I did not realize that. I apologize.
No problem.
The applicant himself agreed on the record this evening that it was a major undertaking. And I did think it was an interesting line of questioning that if he has 125 acres on site, what is it about these 46 acres that the hay must be planted there to support a horse farm? I think the relationship between the two is attenuated at best. There was a discussion this evening about a staging area for gravel to sit on what requires, so the staging area for the gravel and the loam, those piles require their own individual special use permits. That's that 6-foot limit that we spoke about earlier. They were addressed directly on the record this evening by the applicant that they do in fact exist and will in fact exist. The other discussion about that material was that whether or not he had shipped it off-site, whether or not he needs to bring it back. Actually, the notice of violation that was upheld by the zoning board requires him to bring all of that material back and to restore the site to its original condition. I've seen no movement in that direction, but since it has been upheld, I do assume that that will occur at some point in time in the near future. There has been no construction schedule placed in front of us. The description of the timeline is seemingly changing here and there. I bring that up because it undercuts the argument that it's temporary. How do I know if it's temporary if there's no definitive construction plan with specific timelines? 2 years, year and a half, that's a guess because we don't have any materials that support that the job can be completed within that time frame. I apologize, I need to finish reading my notes.
We've got 5 minutes to wrap it up if you...
I'm done now. 5 seconds. Thank you very much for allowing me to give that presentation and accepting my exhibits into the record.
Thank you. Just asking what our time frame is and whether it's a good idea to start bringing more speakers forward or to end it here and take it up at the next meeting. It'll definitely have to be continued because everyone has to have a chance to speak. Council, would you suggest the...
Council, were there any additional witnesses that you wish to bring forward at an additional meeting?
No, actually, at this point, no. You know, he, on behalf of the company, Brian would just rely on the application set forth by Hinckley Allen, his law firm, and the expert that testified tonight.
I've got 4 minutes, call it 5 minutes. Anyone have a 5-minute speech that they would like to grace us with? On a butter, please. You want a butter?
Yes.
Okay, will you please?
Yes, I do. Richard Sparks, 48 East Killing, Lee Road. I'll try to do this. Already, my mouth is getting dry, so. We've lived at 48, well, we've lived on East Killing Road for 35 years. We raised our family there. We're a tree, our property is a tree farm. We're stewards of the land. We like to spend time in our woods. I've constructed roads in the woods, take walks in the woods, walked our dogs in the woods. It's a whole different scenario when you get steel clanging on boulders and backup alarms. It's just not the same. It's a big change. We hunt on our property. We harvest wood. We have a timber management plan. We hunt. Anyone who hunts knows that heavy equipment doesn't exactly make for an aesthetic experience. So anyway, that's where I come from. As you may not know, and I know you received my letter, but I went door to door down East Killingly Road, Old Danielson Pike, Route 6, and Mount Hygeia Road, and I tried to contact everybody who wasn't a butter or lived nearby to see how they felt about this project. And as far as I know, I never ran into anyone that was supported it, but everyone was against it. And that's what I found. So I hope you think and listen and consider our interests and concerns with allowing a use like this in close proximity to our homes and our properties. There's a problem with noise. There's a potential problem with property value. There's a potential problem with wells. We too have an investment that collectively, if you take all the properties in this area, it's estimated maybe $30 million. So it's a big investment for all of us. Our homes are the biggest investment we have. A use like this, it renders our properties unusable for our uses at times and what we're used to. I don't know if I said so-called gravel extraction before, but I'll say it now, and this is something that's always bothered me about this project, is like, where is the gravel? Where is the gravel bank? There is no place in these documents that in this application that documents the existence of either gravel or a gravel bank within the limits of excavation as proposed. If you go to the Stormwater Management Report by Dupree Engineering, on this, it lists the soils present on pages 1 and 2, existing conditions, sections 2.1 soils. If you go to the area on the gravel, it says none. Now, I don't know if that means there's no gravel for sure. That's kind of how I interpreted it. But I've also generated soils maps that show there's a little bit of gravel. It's in the wetland area. Gravel banks are formed when rivers and streams weathered soil materials and made these deposits, which are gravel banks. So my concern is, how can you issue a permit to excavate something that's not there? There was a gravel bank there. I'm familiar with that property. I've probably no place on Hammond Hill that I haven't been on at one time or another, and there was an old gravel bank down there that was depleted back in the 50s and 60s. And I have further definitions of bank gravel. Naturally deposited gravel intermixed with sand or clay found in and next to rivers and streams, also known as bank run or river run. Large gravel deposits are a common geological feature being formed as a result of weathering and erosion of rocks. The action of rivers and waves tend to pile up gravel in large accumulations. Bank run gravel definition: granular material excavated without screening, scalping, or crushing. This type of material is a naturally occurring aggregate comprised of cobbles, gravel, sand, and fines. So what is being proposed here is not excavation of gravel from a gravel bank. It's excavation of various materials that have to be mixed with crushed stone to generate gravel. I just don't think that, I think that exceeds the original intent and scope of having a gravel bank special use. And so when I look at this, I look at it that it's a land development project. According to the applicant, their plans, they're excavating berms, and I think they're more like 40-foot berms. I looked at one plan and I saw the contours and the elevations. I think it's more like 40 feet, maybe in excess of 40 feet. Now, for a horse farm, Now, when you do that, you actually lose surface area to have hay fields, because now you've got slopes, and you just lose all that surface area to grow hay. Has the applicant submitted a business plan for a horse farm? If I was going to build a gun range, I would build a gun range just like this. The applicant himself made reference to rumors that he's really building a gun range. He could dispel these rumors and show that he respects his neighbors by stipulating that no commercial or club gun range will ever be established on this property. What is going to happen to the water table on my land and Joe Natiga's and Ed Freeman's, the Hanlons, when he excavates 40 feet, and in our case, just down slope of us? He should be required to conduct a hydrologic study that proves this project will not impact our wells or up the wetlands on our property. Where's this water going to go? It's going to go down slope, it's going to go out down the slope, and the drainage, gone. It's not going to accumulate, it's not going to be filtered. It's the aquifer, it's a community wellhead protection area for the school, for the church. You take all the material off, and then you put fertilizer on it to grow hay. What's it going to do to the water quality across the street here? We're across the street, 800 to 1,000 feet away. How does this project help the town? Well, I can tell you for one that we're poised to make a large investment in our property. We put all our plans on hold because we don't know what's going to happen with this property, with the gravel bank, with the farm, if it is a farm. So that's on hold. That's on hold for us. So there's money the town's going to lose because they're not going to generate tax revenue from us because we're not going to invest that in our property anymore. The zoning board statement of purpose provided in your staff report indicate the reasons why zoning ordinance exists to protect the quality of life. I'm asking that you protect the integrity and value of our properties. I also had, last year, I had a noise expert and a hydrologic expert, and I was unable to get them here tonight. So the way this was handled puts us at a disadvantage, but maybe we'll get a chance to get it in another time. On February 15th, 2017, Foster's Planning Board voted 5-1 against this project. They gave you clear guidance as to why this proposed project is not good for the town. In their assessment, they determined that this project was inconsistent with the comprehensive plan and is inconsistent with surrounding land use. And as I said before, this project is inappropriate in a wellhead protection zone. It's a responsibility that towns have for protecting groundwater and aquifers. Foster has nothing other than a denial of a special use permit. We need to develop standards on what kind of land development use you're going to allow in wellhead protection areas. And I will submit that removing, and it's probably more than 850,000 cubic yards in a wellhead protection zone is an inappropriate use for a wellhead protection zone. Noise. A rock crusher is music to one man's ears, but to a whole lot of neighbors it is noise. Yes, sir.
Before we get into going a little bit over the time
On my last paragraph.
I'm sorry?
I'm on my last paragraph.
Do it.
Just ask Joe Natiga how he feels when the applicant threatens to set up a rock crusher 500 feet from his house. What about the Payne School? What about St. Paul's? Noise from backup alarms, excavation equipment with steel clanging and rock and boulders. Anyway, I guess that's probably all at this point. That's all I, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Chair will entertain a motion for adjournment. Oh, yeah, we're gonna continue. It's automatically got a continuation. We have a lot of people who would like to speak, and it will be continued at the next schedule.
At the next,
If you might want to have a special. You will be advised as to when, I'm sorry? We have to figure it out now. That's why she says next.
Stand by.
All right. Because we need the same people here, it will have to be the next scheduled meeting. Can everyone hear me? And of course, it'll be published, but we can give you the date now. March 14th. Yeah. That'll be March 14th, and
Continuation, and you'll be notified.
no, this is the notice.
This is
your
the notice.
It will be listed on the agenda, but this is there'll be no advertising.
I would estimate, I don't know what the head count is here. I don't know, I know we won't fit in the Eddy building. I have it here again. I've been advised we'll have it here again. But look for the notice to make it official. Now we'll entertain a motion for adjournment, I think. Correct? We have a motion to continue at the next.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we continue this meeting to the next scheduled meeting.
Second. Second by Mr. Ramo. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Passed. We will have a continuation on March 14th. Now, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second.
No, someone
Oh, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So